Let's see how to declare, instantiate, and initialize arrays. Arrays are declared by adding square brackets to the type of elements that the array will contain, which can be either a primitive data type or a non-primitive data type. The syntax for declaration is type followed by square brackets and then the variable name. Note that when an array is declared, memory is not yet allocated to the array. Arrays are instantiated with the keyword new followed by the type of elements that the array will contain and then the size of the array, which is added within square brackets. The syntax for instantiation is the keyword new followed by type of array and then the size within square brackets. Note that memory is allocated to the array when an array is instantiated. If array contains primitive types, then each element of the array is initialized to the default value of the primitive type. If an array contains non-primitive types, then each element of the array is initialized to null. So if an array with primitive type int is instantiated, the array is created with all its elements initialized to 0, which is the default value for int data type. If an array with non-primitive user-defined type, say employee, is instantiated, the array is created with all elements initialized to null. Arrays are initialized by adding the elements at each array index. For example, you would add 75 as first element of array by referencing index 0. You can also declare, instantiate, and initialize an array in a single statement by adding the element values within curly braces. Let's look at this in more detail. So, when you instantiate an array, memory is allocated to array, and the elements are initialized to the default values of the data type. If the data type is non-primitive, then the elements are initialized to null. After instantiation, you can update the array with specific element values by traversing the array and setting the element values at each index. Or you can instantiate the array and set the element values in a single step by adding the element values in curly braces. Let's look at sample code. Here we have declared an array of type string named string array. We instantiate the array by using the new keyword and specifying the size of our array within square brackets. At this point, memory is allocated to our array, and since strings are non-primitive, the element values of the array are set to null. You then set the element values of the array by its index position. Alternatively, you can declare, instantiate, and initialize the array in a single step by specifying the element values within curly braces. Since elements are added at each index of the array, the time complexity to create an array is O of n, and since space is allocated for each element of the array, the space complexity to create an array is O of n. Let's go ahead now and code our array. We have our class named myArray1, and we have our main method. Let's begin by declaring our array. Let's declare an int array named intArray. Note that at this point, memory is not yet allocated to our array. Next, we will instantiate our array. We use the keyword new, and let's say the array size we want is 5. Now the memory is allocated to our array, and the elements at each index is initialized to the default value of 0. Next, let's set the element values at each index. Say we have 5 at index 0, 10 at index 1, 15 at index 2, 20 at index 3, and 25 at index 4. Remember that arrays begin with index 0. So the size of our array is 5. Index of first element 0 and index of last element is 4. Let's now print out the contents of our array so that we can test it out. We will have a for loop with I is 0 and I is less than array dot length and I plus plus. And we will just print out the element at each index. Let's run the code and we can see the contents of the array printed in the console. Thank you for watching. Please visit our website interviewgrid.com for more topics and frequently asked interview questions and answers on these topics. If you liked this video, please subscribe to this channel for more of similar videos.